actually.
Did you listen to that last week, Pete, where I did the kind of like the rolling intro? I kind of like that.
I think that works, man.
I like it a lot when people do that. You know, we kind of BS a little bit, and then I'm like, oh, hey, we're here.
So baseball's finally back and rain delay. I just got home and I turned the game on and they're talking to Manfred and boom, lightning flash. And I'm like, sweet. I finally get to watch baseball and now it's rain delayed.
It sucks because I have my whole entire life, baseball is my first love. And I don't know, I have kind of fell out of love with it the last couple of years. Which is crazy because like when the Cubs winning the World Series, I grew up Cubs fan. I grew up in Chicago. So when they won the World Series, that was like it. Then I'm like, okay, I never have to watch baseball again. But that's not true at all. Like I still think it's
the final game of the Cubs World Series. Sure. I was on a canine track, running around. A guy had broken into somebody's house, stole a bunch of stuff, and so we're tracking through all these neighborhoods, and everybody's got their TVs, and I'm looking, and me and the office, the canine officer, we're looking in the windows trying to like catch the scores and see what the game's going on. So that's how I remember the final game of the World Series with the Cubs winning.
Isn't that the worst when you have to work during like a big game? Like the Cubs, like this is it's not just a World Series game. It's like the Cubs are about to break like one of the biggest curses in all of sports. It's not just a sports moment. It's like a cultural moment. And like you're like running around working.
Dumping rain too.
Dumping rain.
Well, it's Washington, of course.
Yeah.
I was at work, but I was lucky enough to be the third shift, just kind of sit there and watch the computers. So we had it on one of the big screens and I was like bawling like a baby, man. Like I couldn't even function. I was one of the greatest feelings I'll ever remember as a sports fan. But then since then, I like minor league. I go to a lot of typically 10, 12 minor league games a year. Like I just love going to just being at the ballpark, the smells and all that. So I don't know if our minor league is coming back or not. I haven't heard. I know that the MLB is doing the 60 game, but I don't know if our minor league is or not. Actually, I've never. Because of all this, everything that's been going on, COVID and stuff, I've kind of sectioned myself away from the news as much as I can. But so I probably should find out whether it's going or not.
Where's Toronto playing? Do they come to an?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. Actually, yeah.
I like Pittsburgh saying no. That was like, pretty amazing. Like no, just like nah. It's like someone asked them a question and they paused and were like, nah. A little bit of. I feel like why not Cleveland though? Why I feel like Toronto is closer. Well, but I guess maybe because they're both AL. Is that the whole? I honestly don't know much about it.
Yeah.
I only saw. This is me like crop dusting the news on this one. I guess it'd be the opposite way. I'd be getting crop dusted. But yeah, I don't know much about that one. But I do know that Toronto was pretty hardcore, like which I knew about a long time ago. They've had this stance for a while, so and it's funny that it just came they were like, oh yeah.
Last minute.
No, like Toronto's been shut down for a very long time and been pretty clear that they were not going to do this type of stuff.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this is actually a football podcast, but it is just good to have live sports again. I think we're all kind of geeked a little bit. I was hoping to watch some of it tonight. But this is Devy Owner's Manual, episode 3.4, where we talk about, the campus Canton leagues, basically college football, little NFL, a little bit of news. We got a lot of news that we can talk about today. Just some things we wanted to talk about. We're also going to talk about some of these running back names you got to know. And I got a couple gentlemen here. You've heard their voices already. First up, my illustrious co-host, Mr. Pete Lawrence. How you doing, bud?
I'm doing fantastic, man. It's just good to talk sports.
It is, man. That's why I'll bounce around some of the news and some of it. Well, we'll just talk about because we want to talk about it. And not only do I have Pete here, but I also have an Emmy award-winning Mr. David Berger. How you doing, David?
Doing fantastic. I'm kind of riding the mute button as I have my wife and my child doing little dinner time in the background. But West Coast time zones. This is how Zoom/podcasts work right now. As everyone tries to collaborate, we're living the from home lifestyle, but we're making it work. We're having fun. I'm excited to talk about some Devy. I'm excited.
Right. It's kind of interesting to see like even the daytime talk shows and like, the nighttime ones and everybody going from home, just like we're doing right here. It's kind of neat. And honestly, I think it's worked pretty well. So it's led to some discussions of, maybe we won't reel this all the way back. And I'm like, whoa. I don't know about going that far, but, I still miss the person to person stuff, and I'm sure hopefully we get back to some of that eventually. So.
No, it's funny. I actually heard Jim Carrey on Howard Stern. He was doing a remote interview, and he was like, "Good luck getting guests to come to your show after this," which is probably true to some extent. But I have to say, if they're going to do that, can someone? I mean, I listen to like podcasts from guys that have 17 followers that have better mics than some of these celebrities. So it's $120 on Amazon. If you're listening to this and you are in the PR department of any big time celebrity, there's a way you can make your interviews sound a whole lot better.
Exactly, man. All right, guys, we got a little bit of news here. Mike Tyson's making a comeback. I thought that was pretty interesting news. I'm just kidding. I don't know if you guys saw that. Isn't that crazy? 52 years old. He's going to come back and fight. It's nuts, man.
It is nuts, but he's fighting Roy Jones, right?
Yeah, Roy Jones, 8-round exhibition match.
But Roy Jones, though, I feel like is still in shape. I actually I did a show with him about 4 years ago, which is a lot of time to get washed up. True, but he was still pretty. I mean, he still had it. Like we did a whole thing like of B-roll with him looking studly. So I don't think that I've seen a lot of tweets like Roy Jones is about to get murdered. Like. I don't know. Maybe
Roy Jones was a good boxer. Like at his peak. Yeah, he was. There's a lot of people fading him, but dude, he was lethal when he was in the zone. I mean, and neither of them have been in the zone for a long time. So,
right. I think Tyson's just banking on being able to hit him. All he's got to do is hit him a couple times, but I don't know if he's going to be able to hit him. Like Tyson, he looks like he's still got the power, but I bet he doesn't move that great. I don't know. He's still exhibition. Why not? Should be a lot of fun. Let me see.
Mike Tyson's got those Christine Michael, workout videos, just getting everybody hyped.
Exactly. All right, just some high school football. Go ahead.
Adjust the ranks is all I was going to say.
Adjust your ranks. I see that Nevada moved their high school football to 2021, but then Florida also backpeeled theirs. They were supposed to go in the spring, and now they're saying they're just going to push back the fall, which I thought was kind of interesting because I didn't know there was seasons in Florida. I thought it was just summer all the time. So that was kind of fun to me to know that there's actually seasons in Florida. So
the Nevada news, I feel like, is a little bit of a big deal because they have a pretty prominent high school program in Bishop Gorman. So that's a lot of kids that aren't going to get showcased going into next year. So, I mean, I think that like Snoop Dogg's kid went there. It's a pretty big. I mean, that would be the only real reason to be concerned about the Nevada news. And Florida obviously is a much bigger high school football state, so a lot more invested there, a lot more on the line. So interesting news for sure.
Yeah, we'll talk about it a little more later when we go back into the deeper classes of the running backs. But a lot of these guys, I think, are just going to end up not playing. A lot of these high school seniors, they don't have much to lose, and why risk, playing and getting COVID, and losing, any sort of, your hype, your draft. I just can't see a lot of them playing, and a lot of them are already saying, hey, we're just going to train and not worry about it. So I think it's just a domino effect. It's crazy, guys. I really don't know what to think. I'm starting to feel like there's not going to be any college football, which sucks so much, and so much more than I can even fathom, or if they do, it'll be, very, very scaled back. I wish we could have an answer. Like, I feel like it's time to start, getting ready to go to football games like a month away from when the season would start. And I don't know what we're going to do as a podcast. We'll figure out something. I thought about maybe we could get together and do like simulation games on our NCAA 2014 and just talk about the prospects or something. We'll figure it out. We'll get something for you guys. But what we're going to do without college football, that would just suck. And I don't know. I don't even want. Yeah, you just want to talk about it. I thought we would, but the more I think about it, maybe I don't want to talk about it. So
I got a text last night that was someone who was friendly with the Oklahoma football athletic department, or the Oklahoma athletic department, in regards to the football program. And, they're doing what they can to keep everything contained. And they actually reached, from what I read, they reached a, zero positive bubble. But then a couple players popped up again. So, I mean, the reality is, we're going to have these moments where the bubbles are broke and players aren't going to play. I think that, quite frankly, there is way too much on the line to not have a season financially. And that's from not just I actually don't even think it's from the television perspective, because television will be fine. I think it's from a institution perspective. I think that a lot of these schools are counting on this revenue, and if they don't get it, are going to have to substantially change how their university works. So I do think that we will at least start the season. Whether or not we finish it, that's TBD.
I just saw ESPN. Alvarez has said Wisconsin is likely to lose up to $100 million if there's no football.
Yeah, I heard a number similar to that for Michigan too. It's like,
that's bonkers.
And part of me thinks, that there's the college has a different thing to think about, because they have to go based on what their students do. And if their students are going to online classes and not going to the campus, it's almost unfair for the football players to go. But part of me thinks, that I don't know a way to skirt around that rule, because I don't think having football is really going to, trying to think of a way to strategically say this, is going to really expose the athletes more to it more than what they already would. You still have a pretty tight community. And I think without fans and stuff, it will help, that aspect of it. But it's a tricky. I would not want to be on these boards making these decisions. Like it's so hard, and there's so much we don't know, and there's so much, I don't know. And then the whole ripple, the NFL looks like they don't have any idea what the hell they're doing either. Sides fighting over money, whether they're going to do it, players saying they're not going to do it, owners saying, well, we're not going to, everybody's like, we got money, we don't care. So, man.
Like David said, that the economics are just, that's what's going to be the driver. I think the NFL, the biggest thing when you look at, LA just built a $5 billion stadium. The NFL, those owners are going to do everything they can to get some product on the field, to get some sort of money. Oakland or Vegas, $2 billion stadium. So I don't see how they're not going to put something out there for revenue.
I mean, 100%. Like Kroenke, right. I believe, just took that stadium on the arm, which is how it should be. And I commend him tremendously for doing so. And I feel bad for him that this is happening, even though he probably voted for Trump, not to get political, but I don't feel that bad for him. I don't feel that bad for him. But what I'm saying is, these guys, everyone's in a tough position. This is you're talking about a novel virus. It's a novel situation. And a lot of these decisions are going to be made based on a lot of other factors than just player safety.
Yeah, like you said, nobody saw this. Like you said, novel virus. He opened this $5 billion LA stadium thinking, dude, I'm gonna have Taylor Swift do a concert here. Whenever games aren't going on, I'm just gonna be packing this thing. Whatever shows, and just bringing in revenue. So, yeah. I
mean, he's a rich white guy. He'll be okay. But
yeah, he'll be just fine. I mean, as fine as you can be after $5 billion. Unfathomable to most of us.
Right. Now, Pete, I kind of wanted to talk to you a little bit about this. Have you had a talk with your league mates about, because I feel like the NFL has a higher chance of having like a full season, or at least 12 games. College, what are your campus to Canton leagues going to do if you go back to like 8 games? Are you guys gonna like I've kind of brought it up with a little bit in the ones that I'm in that I commission. And I've just basically told everybody, you got to be fluid. I mean, this is going to be, we may just have a regular season. We might roll the pot to next year. We may do like a double header every week for the first 6 weeks and hope we can get, like a good idea of who the best couple teams are and do a couple week playoff. But if there's bye weeks in there, like it could be incredibly muddy in campus to Canton, especially on the college side. I think the NFL side will be a little more structured and probably a little easier to deal with if they decide to just randomly shorten it, So I don't know if you'd had any conversations with your league mates and stuff.
Yeah, so our Heisman to Hollis, I mean, we have a 50 deep roster. So, I think you're going to be able to survive most, COVID, absences. I think, obviously we have no idea at this point what the schedule is going to look like, how many games are actually going to get played. It's kind of just playing it by ear right now, but probably just likely we'll roll with it. If we only get a couple, however many games we get in through the season, that's what we get. Hey, we'll crown a champion, and we'll just tackle it next year. So,
yeah, that's kind of where I'm at too. Just like a partial trophy, something. There's all kinds of things we can do. This is such unprecedented territory, so it's kind of crazy. I know DLF just released an article today. I think it was Jacob Feldman wrote it about how to talk with your league about COVID-19 and things you guys can do to adjust. And it was a pretty good article. I think if you're listening to this, you haven't read it, go on DLF and find it. It was a good article. Kind of sucking. I can't remember who wrote it, but I actually just saw it right before this and retweeted it because I thought it was really good to. There's a lot of people out there that are a lot smarter than us, and I consider myself a good commissioner. I know you are, Pete, but I'm Scott, Ryan, John are way better commissioners than we are, and these guys have been talking over every scenario for the last, 3 months, and they've got tons of good ideas and things you can do. So if you do run one of these leagues, make sure you just stay up front with your league, with your people in your league, and just, let them know they got to be fluid. That's pretty much all we can do at this point. So. All right, let's get the meat and potatoes, guys. Some running back talk. David said he's got a speech. So, all right. First, I was going to ask kind of how do you guys approach running backs? Running backs tend to have seems like a little bit higher hit rate than wide receivers, especially Devy ones. But then they got the shorter shelf life. So, how do you attack, David? I'll ask you because you said you hadn't prepared something. How do you attack running back?
I am prepared, but it's not a good noise time right now. Why don't we?
It's not a good noise time.
Why don't we let Pete go first and then circle back to me?
Oh, the Benadryl hasn't kicked in yet. Okay. Anyways, go ahead.
Yeah. So we just wrapped up our Heisman to Hollis draft together, and yeah, for me, it's just hammer the running back. Target a few certain wide receivers that I can. And of course, super flex, you got to keep churning those quarterbacks. We see so many quarterbacks that come out that are just highly regarded. Tate Martell is just a great example who, turned out to be nothing. He was the top of the list. And I'm sure in quite a few Devy drafts, he was probably a first round pick when he first came out. If you're a freshman only, or if you're a very depleted Devy type, format. So I try to hammer running back. If I have a ton of them that come in the NFL at the same time, that's just better for me.
Yeah, I think it's critical. Like I look at most of my campus to Canton leagues and my Devy roster, my college side is probably 80% running back and wide receiver. I mean, and probably maybe even more. I usually have, 6, 7 quarterbacks, probably 15 running backs, 20 wide receivers. Those are the core. Those are the guys, you want to make sure you have a couple guys that do really good in college. Your guys like Jarrett Patterson, who's got some NFL prospect, but is just an absolute beast in college. You want to get some of those guys that run for those small schools. The Central Michigan turns out quite a few guys. They'll get 1,500 yards, 20 touchdowns, but they'll never really make anything in the NFL. So you want to get a couple of those guys like that. Guys that you can plug in and start. Your guys like your ETNs and your Hubbards and all those guys. tend to not have the giant weeks like that. They don't tend to put up, well, Hubbard does, I guess, but your guys, ETN doesn't routinely rush for 250 yards and 4 touchdowns. He's, typically 125 and 2, and they yank him out, or they're already up 70 to nothing. So, so you want to get your guys that produce well at the college level. You want to get a couple of those sprinkled in. You never know, one of them might hit as well. Every once in a while, you get one that will. So it's kind of good to have just as many as possible. And I don't know, I was going to let David pop in, and David left.
So when you're looking at your running backs, what are the kind of things that you're scouting, especially with incoming freshmen? One of the things I like to look at, is just really hammer into, 247 rivals, look at ESPN, just try and find like freak athletes, see if I can find anything about a guy's workout stuff in high school. That's always just been big for me.
Right. You want to see, I like looking at their rankings. Usually I like watching their size too, because you see a guy you think if he's 5'9", 180, 185 as like a junior in high school, he's going to fill out really nice. He's going to be 220, 5'10", you watch his profile, then you want to see him still do. I don't watch a lot of high school tape. Usually on those 24/7s, I pretty much religiously use 24/7. They tend to have sometimes links to the high school games. So you can see their high school. There's not a lot of great high school footage out there. It seems like, even for the IMGs and things like that. But you want to see them already dominating. You want to see them running over guys. You want to see almost every one of them is faster than every guy on the field. So you want to look for other things. You want to see them make the little subtle changes that, so they're not relying entirely on their athletic ability. You want to see them, juke, make moves, go through the middle, not bounce every run out to the outside, because almost every one of those guys can bounce it out to the outside and take off. That's something that they seem to, they all pretty much do. You want to see them run up the middle. You want to see them, catch passes. You want to see them block for the quarterback. You want to see them do little things. Those are things that really stick out to me. And I think guys that will get them noticed, no matter what school they end up at, and then, we do have schools that tend to turn out better running backs, like Georgia and things like that. So you want to watch, if Georgia's watching this guy, keep an eye on him, so you kind of watch that, programs, things that make a difference. Those are some of the things that I look for when I'm in a couple of my deeper leagues where we can actually draft high school guys and stuff like that. So those are things I look for before they get to the NCAA. So David, can you talk, man?
I can talk now. Sorry. Thank you for your patience.
We were just talking a little bit about deeper recruiting, but we were going to bounce back to you.
Well, that's good. I mean, look, listen, you're the Devy owners man. Devy owners manual, right?
Yep.
So you guys are the experts. You should be talking a bit deeper than I'm going to go, because I'm going to go full transparency. Yeah, I'm going to go full transparency right now. I've only been doing Devy for about 3 years-ish. That said, I'm extremely into the format. I love it. And it allows players to really invest in the ground floor of a player like a stock. So often in fantasy or dynasty football, talkers and the echo chamber, they love to steal their vocabulary from the stock market. But in so many ways, Devy is the way to play. If you're into that, because that's the truest form of that analogy. Longer market life, your roster is more like assets. Your roster is more like assets. Mostly because there's just more assets between the Devy picks, the rookie draft, and then typically in this format, that's larger rosters for in-season play. So keeping that in mind, I think you have to look at running backs at the Devy level as the players who have the truest upside, because, there's a guy that could be the Saquon, the Christian McCaffrey, the guy, you get a guy that you bought for $1 in a Devy draft, suddenly he's, the belle of the ball. So I think you need to keep that in mind. But also, you take a guy like Keyshawn Vaughn from last season, who I think the Devy market liked, but overall they didn't have an infatuation with him. So he's a lower middle tiered running back most of last season and through the draft process. Then he goes 3rd round to the Tampa Bay Bucks, a team with a short depth chart, solid draft capital. Suddenly skyrocketed in value. So I guess for me and my approach now when it comes to running backs, I want to get in on a guy who projects to be a potential top end running back early when he's not even on most everyone's radar and a little cheaper. And it doesn't have to be going and it doesn't even have to be going into his freshman season. Although with the growth of Devy, I suspect most of these top end 5-star guys, like you guys are talking about, the deeper guys, they're on the radar a little bit more now than they used to be. But you take a guy like Max Borghi, who I got for $1 after his freshman season in a Devy draft. And now he's going to rise up the ranks and appreciate in value so much that I have the option to keep him if I think he's going to be good and help my roster, or turn over for a massive profit come draft season. So, this is Max Borghi, he has a young breakout. He has the massive production. These are things that the draft process loves. It's only going to hype him up even more. There's going to be guys like this all the time. Another way I've approached it and had success includes making a play towards the end of the NFL season, where people potentially are looking for playable guys willing to give up more long-term assets to be able to compete at the moment. I was able to flip Derrick Henry last year and part of that package included J.K. Dobbins. It was a little scary at the time, but I feel pretty good about it now. I think I got Baker Mayfield out of it and some other pieces as well. So I'm feeling pretty good. But then again, too, Devy is inherently risky, as you guys were just talking about as I came on. I think a lot of people think it's easy to find the players that will fill out their rosters one day, but it's definitely hard and not that obvious unless it's like players like Saquon or Christian McCaffrey or Nick Chubb. It's easy to whiff. And that's where I think treating your Devy team a little bit more with that stock market approach is valuable, because conventional wisdom is like, okay, I'm going to get guys that will one day win me a championship at the next level. But there's probably only a few guys every draft class that you should treat that way. And the other guys should be a little bit more liquid, with this, especially if the price is right. Take the money and run before the guy tears an ACL or something and you miss that sell window. That's my spiel.
Yeah, what you were talking about. Yeah, that's like my favorite thing in the world to do. Is like, if you're getting toward that end of the season, you're not going to make, even if you got a decent team, you're not going to do it. Start getting rid of some of your older guys and get your. I think in one of the Pigs leagues, I needed a quarterback really bad, and I traded Trevor Lawrence for like Jameis Winston and a couple things. This was when Jameis wasn't throwing 90 interceptions. But I like doing both sides of that. I always have a pretty good stable of Devy assets that where if I get close to that I need an extra piece, I'm more than willing to part with a guy. But then I like going the other way too. Like toward the end of the season, I don't do a lot of Devy trades early in the season. During draft, nothing like that. I really like the end of the season for Devy trading. I don't know why. It's just one of my favorite times to move those guys. I think the market's really good at that point because people get desperate. Like I never should have traded Trevor Lawrence ever, because I think I lost in the first round of the playoffs, and now I don't have Trevor Lawrence. So, but I thought that Jameis was the piece, and I think I got something else for him. But, now that guy's going to have Trevor Lawrence, and it wouldn't have helped me won this year, whatever. So in the long term scheme of things, it probably wasn't that big of a thing, but it's still, they're good assets to have. So
yeah, and even in the off season, I didn't bring it up because we're talking running backs, not wide receivers. But as an example, I bought Tamarion Terry for $1 last year. I shouldn't say bought. I was able to acquire him for $1 last year. Right. And then someone came back to me a year later and was like, how much for him? I was like, well, I don't know. Because the market is like, you make your own market. But I was like, I tell you what, a prospect I liked at this same time last year that seems about the same was Tylan Wallace. And I got him for $115. So I was like, I'll take $115 for him. And the guy was like, sure. So I turned 115% profit off Tamarion Terry, and you could be like, oh, why didn't you hold on to him? Is there going to be another point in Tamarian Terry's career in which I can turn 115% profit off this guy? Probably not. So, and I don't even know if that's the right math, to be quite frank. But, but it felt like it was a big come up, and I used that cash to get Trey Lance and George Pickens in my Devy draft this year. So,
that's good.
You got to be looking for these opportunities to think of your debt. Like I said, you really got to think of it in that stock market kind of vibe where you're buying and selling, man. You're buying and selling.
You made a great point. Like, Eno Benjamin, after his sophomore season, massive sophomore season, really climbed up in the Devy ranks. Kind of a disappointing junior year. Didn't really light up. He still got drafted, but I mean, if you had capitalized after that sophomore blow up, you could have turned him into a huge profit, flipped him for multiple draft picks, assets. It's great. It's everybody remembers your bad trades, your good trades. You just keep churning, man. You got to try to make that value. Well, I think almost trades that blow up in our face, but hey.
Well, probably at that time too, Balaj was relatively around. Balaj definitely had a little bit more of the Devy hype. Was like, you probably bought low on him, and then he rose up. So
the Kalen Balaj hype is fantastic because out here on the West Coast, watching Arizona State games, all of his production came out of the Wildcat. That's the only time he looked good running the ball. And you're sitting there watching. People are like, "Oh, Kalen Balaj can be the hype. He's this." And you guys actually watching the games? The only time
he's the next David Johnson.
Yeah, yep. It's out. You can look it up. It's in the Twitter sphere.
But when you posted that question on the show sheet, that was my general take. And like I said, full transparency, which is a word that I heard a lot as someone doing research about this space. I want to be fully transparent. I've only been in this game for about 3 to 4 years. So, but at the same time, I can just tell you what my life has been like dealing with it. And that's, to me, something I've learned along the way.
Right. I like it. All right, we'll get into the 2020 class a little bit. We'll talk about, the main guys you guys really probably already know. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on them. Berger has a couple guys he wanted to talk about. And Pete, if there's anybody you wanted to highlight, but I mean, we got a couple that are up here at the top. You kind of go back and forth. It's not the greatest class. It does have potential to be a good class, a special class, but there's a lot of question marks. There's even question marks at the top. The top for me is Travis Etienne from Clemson. He's been the top in this, and he was the top for me in last year's class. He's the top in this class. I love Etienne, but there is a lot of concern about him at the next level just because he didn't have the workhorse load at Clemson. They never needed him to, for one. There's a lot of questions at Chuba Hubbard also, who's got immense production from Oklahoma State. Max Borghi, Washington State. I have him third, but he's got a ton of questions as well. A lot of high profile analysts in recent weeks have come out saying they don't think he can be anything other than a third down back, which is interesting because if you watch his tape, he's so much more to me. Najee Harris, I got him high. Journey Brown, Kenneth Gainwell. There's some really big names there. Do you guys got anything on any of those? Those are kind of like the big six for me, or seven. I don't know, six. Yeah, okay. Sorry. Can't count. Common Core. Anyways, so those are like the big six for me: Etienne, Hubbard, Borghi, Brown, Gainwell, and Najee Harris. So what do you guys have any takes on any of those guys? Pete, how do you have them?
The Zamir White hate will not stand on this podcast because he's been injured. I get it. He hasn't flashed what we all thought he would when he was one of the top recruits coming out of high school, but I'm still all on board with Zamir White. That's still my dude. I think he's got all the size and potential to be one of the top backs. But he's a lottery ticket where you might have something that you're going to find in the bottom of the trash can in a couple months, or he's going to be that dude that gets, first round type pick in the NFL draft.
What's happening? Sorry.
There's no hate here. I just want to see it, before I put him up there,
What the hell just happened?
And then, Journey Brown. So you got you just like you said, there's a lot of talented guys. I think, if you're talking top five, ETN, Hubbard. For me, Journey Brown right there. I'm a University of Washington fan, so I'm not going to give too much love to Max Borgi, but he's a very talented player. I think the love might have gotten too high when he was going early, like round 1 in a lot of Devy mocks. But now I'm seeing falling way back. So,
yeah, let me see. I got to pull up my notes on him real quick. This is what
Borgi. The guy's an absolute stud. It's insane.
Oh yeah, it's the hate fade. A few people made some tweets, and everybody's allowed their opinion.
Okay,
people can be wrong.
Listen, we're living in the fantasy Twitter world, right? Okay, right. This is who's going to listen to this podcast. Guess what? When Max Borgi hits the model waters in about 8 months or whatever, where are we at? We're in July. About 6 months. Yeah. The models are going to like Max Borgi, and guess what drives draft Twitter? The models. So guess what? Max Borgi is, if they're fading him, he is a massive buy. The guy has insane production from a very early age. I mean, I don't understand it. I don't get it.
Here's the hate.
Go ahead.
The hate is grounded in the fact that he has been a tremendously dominant pass catching back in a Mike Leach system. That is why there's hate for him. The problem is, he has been productive. The thing is, he can run up the middle. He's got good power, good balance. He's got elite acceleration. I mean, kid just hits that second gear like you wouldn't believe. He can run up the middle. He just happens to be a very good pass catching back. And he is amazing. And why is that a bad thing in today's NFL? They're like, he's a third down back. First and second down backs can catch the ball in today's NFL. Good Lord. What about, I don't see it. I really just don't. I think he's got the potential. He has to add a little bit of mass on to take that pounding of the more inside running, but it's there. I mean, I think the kid is tremendously talented, and I want to see him excel outside of a Mike Leach system, and then buy him. I'm buying him everywhere I can. If you're gonna be down on him, come talk to me, baby. Hit me up at FF People's Champ. Find me in a league. Trade me Max Borgi. I don't care. I'll take him.
I find it interesting as I get a text message. I find it interesting that he's kind of like the opposite. People want to do a 1-for-1 comp for McCaffrey. He's kind of the opposite of McCaffrey because McCaffrey was not a prolific pass catcher in college, and now he is at the pro level. So you could project that he would actually do the opposite in the pros, Borgi, where he doesn't catch as much and is able to be a between the tackles grinder more than people think he is able to. And guess what? I believe he ran a 4.3 coming out of high school. So the speed is there. Right. The production is there. I understand the Pac-12 and the Mike Leach system, and I'm sorry about the ding just now, but I don't understand. Like, look, use the negative Max Borgi hate to your advantage right now, because guess what? The only thing that matters from January till April is end of season numbers that people plug into their models. And guess what? I am a pro model person. I come off as an anti-model person. I'm a pro model person. I appreciate them. I love them. I take them with I take them wholeheartedly. I believe in them. But it is a little bit like trend betting, right? It's like people want to fade Henry Ruggs because he's an outlier, right? But it's like you're just okay, so you don't want to make a bet against the trend. I get that. Guess what? Every day in sports, things go against the trend. So I just oh my god, I'm getting dinged. Sorry.
I gotta stop you for a second. Every time you say you're pro model, I know you're Hollywood and Emmys and all that. So I think you're talking about like actual models, you know. Of course you're pro model. You're rubbing elbows with them every day. You know, come on.
I wish. Jesus.
I love you, David. All right, man. Yeah. I don't know. My whole Borgi thing is also, you know, I'm not supposed to do this because he's white, but I think he could play a role like Kamara does. You know, like Kamara is a better pass catching back than he is a runner, but he still does pretty well as a runner. but he's definitely better at pass catching. So why can't Borghi do that same exact role, like that same exact role for a team that gets, 10 carries a game, but is just better at catching the ball? Why couldn't he be the same exact type of player? So I love him. We can't waste 20 minutes on Max Borghi. So
that's true.
Sorry, guys. I don't know. We got a lot of guys still really like Najee Harris a lot. I mean, he's, Najee's done it all. He's going to be a little bit out of an older prospect going out, but he's a guy that can do just about everything. A couple names farther down on the list. David, I'll give you a chance to talk about Keontae Ingram. He's an immensely talented back that should get a chance this year, if he stays healthy, to carry the whole load down in Texas. So I'll give you a chance to talk about Keontae.
David? Thank you, Dwight. I just like Texas in general. I think I became such a Kyler Murray fan because I just happened to flip on Oklahoma the beginning of that season, and I was like, what is this? And I kind of felt that way a little bit last year with Texas's offense. I liked Ellinger, I liked DuVernay, I liked Keontae Ingram. So he's a guy 6 feet, 236 pounds. So he profiles as more of a big back, right? Between the tackles grinder, more of a goal line guy. But he's got 56 catches through 2 years at Texas. And when you watch him, you can see why he looks like a natural receiver with soft hands, the ability to make the catch on the run. I think he's got enough burst and straight line speed. He's probably going to run a 4.4 with his 40 at the combine, just saying. But I think he's above average to potentially elite when it comes to his ability to change direction when he gets going. Love how he plants his foot when he cuts. Makes people look silly out there at times. I think he's got more power than he gets credit for because, like I said, he's a big guy and people forget that at times. He can be elusive in the open field when he gets the ball, also moving his feet. He loves to turn the feet. He's someone deep in the second tier of rookie prospects that could really gain a lot of value by April of next year because I think the NFL is really going to like this guy. He brings a ton to the table for today's more pass-centric NFL. So if someone's fading Ingram, give him to me. I'll take him.
All right, I like him a lot too. He's one notes I have on him says the breaking tackles. Like he just breaks tackles like you wouldn't believe. I love his contact balance and the way he plays through contact. Like you said, he's always turning his legs, but he's a smooth pass catcher as well. He doesn't have like the elite speed, long speed, not a lot of burst, but just a powerful, smooth runner. And I like watching him a lot. I expected a lot more from that offense last year, so it was just kind of a weird season for Texas. So. And then
here's a name. How do you guys feel on Master Teague? Big injury coming off the Achilles. Right. I think it's a great time to buy.
I do think it's a great time to buy because he's a name that's kind of hot out there, and he's definitely like scorching up the Devy like echo chamber. But at the same time, he looks like a bit of a plotter, to be honest.
He did not look as good as this, really came on with that freshman season. And then last year, Dobbins takes back over, really shines in the new offense, which is going to be great. You talked about how you got J.K. Dobbins. Now he's going from Justin Fields and running that, RPO, and now he's going over to Lamar Jackson. Dobbins is probably going to be kind of one of those Nick Chubb back end of the season league winners that is going to carry a lot of teams to champions when he takes over for Ingram. Like I said, Teague is a guy I think you can get for probably pretty cheap right now coming off the injury, and just another name to stash away.
Right. Yeah. What I have is he's a tough runner, not as agile, doesn't have like a lot of side to side. He's more of a straight uphill runner. He sees a hole, hits it, needs to be better at pass catching, but he hasn't really had a chance to do that too much. So I'd be stunned if he came out this year. I'd hope he comes back next year. I mean, it's Trey Sermon's job this year, most likely. So I don't see him. I think Master would have to come back next year and hopefully prove something, although Ohio State's got a stable of backs right behind him ready to come up. So
Sermon, though, just a quick pivot. Sermon, though, I remember watching him as I just mentioned with that Kyler Oklahoma offense. I liked Sermon a lot. He was a fun player to watch. And if we're talking about Dobbins, Teague, Sermon, I mean, from what I've seen from Teague, or from what I've seen from Dobbins and Sermon, they're just in a class above Teague. And I know Teague has a lot of hype, but he just seems like a straightforward running back.
Yeah, fully agree.
Right. All right, I'm gonna go just run through some other names that you guys that are names to know, names to watch this year. I'll grab a couple of these. I won't go through them all. Guys that I like a lot, and you guys can grab some if you want to. I do like Jarrett Patterson quite a bit from Buffalo. He had like 1,800 yards and 26 touchdowns last year or something, amongst a small school. But he's a lot to like about him. He's one that I'm cutting a lot of tape for right now, trying to get a better idea of the feel of what he does. But what I've seen is he's very damn good, but I want to see a little bit more, and give you like a really good evaluation of what I think of him. Jerome Ford's finally getting a chance to start in Cincinnati, a name I like a lot that could come out next year. Rakeem Boyd, Arkansas. Josh Johnson from the University of Louisiana Monroe, another small school guy that crazy production. You got to watch him down there. He's I got to get a little bit deeper into him as well. I like Elijah Collins at Michigan State. He's kind of the only thing left on that offense, and I got to talk about Michigan State occasionally. So those are a couple guys that I'm kind of watching this year to hopefully make a jump up this list. There's one other name you wanted to bring up, Berger. He's a knight, I think, or Sir Roderick. Is Berger here?
Sorry, I was muted. Yes, Sir Roderick Thompson, the Lord of Lubbock. People love Chuba. And you know what? This guy's a discount Chuba. And I'll tell you why. Well, number one, he's not as fast as Chuba. He's like probably going to run in the 4.5, 4.6 range. But at the same time, they offer a lot of the same skills, man. He's 6 foot, 200 pounds, Texas Tech Red Raider. He's a big back who I think looks faster on film than what I've seen online from him. Like I said, he's in the 4.5, 6 range, but the guy seems elusive when he gets out in the open field. But I think he's a great straight line runner with the ability to make some people miss and get outside, get those chunk yardage. The NFL really does value those first and second down backs, and especially guys like Sir Roderick, who are productive at the goal line, right? He pounded it in 12 times in as many games last year. I like guys who can pound it into the end zone, and he does it well. Now, Texas Tech, obviously a points factory, so that's something to keep in mind. But Thompson is a guy who doesn't get talked about much, and I think he's a worthwhile name to put in that back pocket. Just stuff it in that back pocket. We hear all the names. We're not hearing about Sir Roderick Thompson except for on the Devy Manual with Dwight Peoples, Peter Lawrence, because I could see him go in the later rounds of the NFL draft next season and be one of those hot names, maybe even in the UDFA signings, because I feel like he's gonna catch on. That's my take.
I like it.
Nice.
Maybe. You got anybody else beat, or me go?
We'll hit a few quick Pac-12. Obviously, C.J. Verdell, Jamar Jefferson. I think Stevie Scott is kind of just a nice. If you're a fan of Jordan Howard, I see kind of a similar path right there. And I also want to bring up, talking about Cal, USC, Chris Brown Jr. out at Cal, Stephen Carr at USC. Before you think it's just about the West Coast, Michael Carter out at North Carolina is another player who I'm kind of big on. And unfortunately, Dwight snagged a guy who I kind of wanted to get, spaced on it in our Heisman to Hollis, but UW's very own Richard Newton, who I think is going to have a good season up at UW.
Nice. Yeah, another guy who will be just great, probably great for college, but I don't see him, translating to the NFL, but should have pretty darn good numbers up there. So
he could easily be, a second option back. And, maybe all those guys are not, none of them are going to be Saquon. They're not Henry. They're not Nick Chubb. They're not Kamara. They're not CMC. But, dude, they're guys who are probably going to get in the league. Running backs get injured, and it's going to add to your fantasy points. So stash them away.
That is a big point, dude. Running backs get injured. Like, and it gets overstated and understated, I feel. It's just a truth of life we deal with at all levels, and you have to keep it in mind at all times.
Right. I will go into the 2021 class. We'll got to speed it up just a hair. We're almost to an hour already. It's good for us. We've been you're getting us talking good, David. I like it, man. So, all right, we got a couple of the big names in the class here. I don't have a rankings of this class quite yet, like a solid rankings. Guys I like a lot though in this class. Breece Hall is one of my favorite overall Devy running backs. He's been getting a little shade lately, and I don't know why. I'm going to start hunting those people down. Isaiah Spiller from Texas A&M is another big back. Has looked amazing his freshman year. Zach Charbonnet, another big, huge dude out in Michigan. John Emery Jr. might finally get a chance to shine this year in LSU. It's either going to be him or Tyrion Davis Price. I don't know why I said that so bad. It's probably Tyron. Anyways, Jarian Ely at Ole Miss looked amazing last year. Couple names, and then Eric Gray at Tennessee, who David wants to talk about a little bit. George Helani, Kenneth Walker, the third from Wake Forest, another name to watch. Watch that kid. Ramon Davis, Temple. We've got some names in this class, guys, that can really make a lot of. This is going to be a huge year for a lot of these guys. A lot of these guys are just getting a chance to really be the man this upcoming season. So a lot of this class could really emerge this year. David, I'll give you a chance to talk about the Tennessee boy, Eric Gray, man.
Yeah, what I wanted to do when I was coming on this podcast was look at some of the names that Dwight was putting out there and find some that people were not really talking about. And I feel like Eric Gray is someone that should be talked about a little bit more. I mean, listen, there might be some other podcasts out there who are. I'm pretty deep into this, so I haven't seen his name all that much, to be honest. But listen, coming out of high school, this guy had 138 touchdowns. He's the first ever 3-time Mr. Football Award winner in the state of Tennessee. He's 5'10", 195 pounds, so he's not a big back, but he's got ample size. In his freshman year, he had 101 attempts, 539 yards, 5.3 average, and only 4 touchdowns. But he also added in 13 catches, 115 yards for an 8-point average, and chipped in another TD. So it's a true freshman, right? This is SEC football. It's not tough to crack the field. And this guy went out and produced. He's an explosive big playmaker. He has multiple over 70-yard runs on his resume. He often does it with great vision and change of direction, but he's also a true between the tackles guy who I think is going to pound the rock. But like I said, he's got that athleticism. In a crazy Gator Bowl that I had money on, I'll admit, and lost because I was going Indiana, who I thought was underrated last year. But it saw the Vols come back all the way back to beat Indiana 23-22. Gray piled up 120 yards of total offense against the Hoosiers, in addition to spearheading the running game with 14 carries, 86 yards, and a TD. Gray recovered an onside kick that helped the Vols rally from a 13-point deficit in the final 5 minutes. He's a special player, and he should be on your radar.
Nice. I love it. Our boy Ray GQ Ray Garvin just had a post not too long ago about him too. Eric Gray is one of the up and coming. That whole team, Tennessee's got a really good recruiting classes last year. One of the top quarterbacks. They're hopefully a team on the comeback because they're one of my favorite uniforms, one of my favorite programs in college football. So I'd like to see them. They've had a couple dark decades almost, it seems like, ever since Peyton left. So it's been kind of rough there in Tennessee. So bring back Rocky Top, baby. Anybody in there? Anybody on that 2021 class that pokes out to you there, Pete? Or
yeah, the forgotten running back from that recruiting class, Trey Sanders, has the foot injury. The top running back, number 6 overall, top 10 in pretty much all rankings. Yeah, he's just, he kind of got forgotten about. The issue is, obviously, he had the injury. So, your best ability is availability. And especially if you're at Bama and it's Nick Saban, if you're not out on the field, he's going to recruit, I think 4 or 5 other 5-star running backs every year. So you got to be out there on the field. You got to make sure that you claim that spot. He's already got to compete with Najee Harris out there this year. And, you got just a stable of running backs. There's always talented running backs at Bama. Maybe he's going to be somebody who just kind of we don't really hear much about. He finally gets to the NFL and has his shot. Jumping out a few other names. Noah Cain at Penn State. He sparked up. Journey Brown took over. I always like any athlete that's coming out of the Penn State weight room because they are just churning out freaks. And just a favorite name guy, Ole Miss running back Snoop Connor. So,
heck yeah,
that's just the name one.
I love that
Snoop,
name,
Snoop, baby.
Yeah.
Oh, I was supposed to shoot.
I've been meaning to. He mentioned Journey Brown, and I've been trying to. I mean, we need to read Journey Brown's stat log from when he took over.
Journey Brown makes my loins tingle. Okay. When I watch him, he is
here we go. The high school stat line, right, from his high school game.
No, what's that? So this is
where he had a 700-yard rushing game.
He had a 700-yard rushing game.
Yeah, the dude is a legit freak.
What? So he ran. Awesome. He ran the full length of the field 7 times.
Yeah,
that's like Derrick Henry territory.
It's let me see. Let me pull it up.
Well, hold on.
Yeah.
Let me pull up his game logs when he. So the first part of the season, he was going 5, 6, 10, 5, 5, 4, 4. Starting at Michigan. No, you're right. Starting at Michigan State, November 9th. 14 rushes, 124 yards, 8.9 average, 2 TDs, and he also had a catch for 17. Next week at Indiana, 21 for 100 and a tutty, 2 for 20 in the receiving game. Next week against Ohio State, 11 for 64 and a tutty. Rutgers, 16, 103, 3 touchdowns. And then, of course, Saturday, December 28th, the best day of Journey Brown's life, 16 rushes, 202 yards, 12.6 average, 2 touchdowns. His long was 56 yards. The guy ripped it up.
So, all right, yeah, September 12th, 2015, in a game that finished 107-90, Journey Brown, he had 722 rushing yards and 10 touchdowns on 30 carries.
Oh, my Lord. Wow. 30 carries. Wow.
30 carries. So here's one for you. Who used to own the Penn State 40-yard dash record in their weight room?
Oh.
Saquon Barkley.
Yeah.
Who beat it just this March during workouts? Journey Brown. 4.2, I want to say 9. According to 4.29, 4.28.
Penn State can recruit.
They churn out their athletic training program. It's just top notch. You see what they're doing, like Mike Gesicki, Godwin, all of these athletes that they have just been churning out. I forget the safety
Hamler.
Penn State. Hamler. It's the work that they're putting into that program and the science, just the overall atmosphere is, I mean, if you are a kinesiology major, if you're someone who wants to get in and be an athletic trainer at a major program, I think you have to go to Penn State. I don't know why anybody would not go there to see what these guys are doing and how they're training their athletes.
Right. Oh, absolutely, man. All right. You guys are great. Yeah, I gotta be off. This is fun. I'm gonna have you've made that goal. I just wrote that down. I'm gonna see if I can find some footage of that game and get it into something. I don't know. I want to do it. I want to see if I can find it.
Oh, by the way, I slept on this stat, but Eric Gray was the MVP of the Gator Bowl.
Nice. Gator. All right.
True freshman MVP of a bowl game.
Nice. All right, we'll quickly bounce through the 2022 class. These guys are all guys. A lot of these guys will probably not even play this year. Bijan Robinson, Texas. Kendall Milton, Georgia. Marshawn Lloyd, South Carolina. Jamar Gibbs, Georgia Tech. Tank Bigsby from Auburn. E.J. Smith, who is Emmitt Smith's son, is playing at Stanford. Zach Evans finally decided to stay at TCU. Jalen Berger at Wisconsin could take a step forward. Another name you know. And then one last name I wanted to point out. This is for Kane. Kai Thomas from Minnesota, who, in case you didn't know, was the Kansas Gatorade Player of the Year, and he rushed for over 3,000 yards in his senior season. Kane says that every time he talks about Kai Thomas. So I just got to make sure I point that out. So there's a couple guys in that list that this has another potential to be just a really, truly special class. I really like Lloyd there in South Carolina a lot. Tank Bigsby at Auburn is he's Tank. His name is Tank. Come on.
It's a great name.
Yeah, that's all you need, baby. Tank.
He went to Auburn.
Yep.
I know that Bijan Robinson, I haven't seen that's a name that has a lot of buzz look, I mean, there's a lot of ways to approach this. You can be someone who watches film and evaluates a player. Just, you really need to monitor how hot a name is. Bijan Robinson is a hot name, right? So, if you could get him for pretty cheap in your dynasty draft, your Devy drafts coming up, grab it because he's going to appreciate in value because people are talking about him.
Right. I like it, guys. Real quick, I just wanted to bounce. If you are in leagues that can draft high school players, a couple 5-star guys come up the pipeline. The 2021 incoming, or so they'd be freshmen in 2021. A couple 5-star guys. Travion Henderson is going. I want to say he's still committed to Ohio State. There was some news about him recently, but I couldn't seem to find him. Kamar Wheaton has not decided, but it looks like Oklahoma. Will Shipley is going to be at the next probably big back at Clemson. He should be able to come in next year and really raise some hell. 2022, a couple other 5-star guys. Emmanuel Henderson is committed to Auburn. The kid is a 6'2" or 6'1", 190 pounds already, and he's only a junior in high school. Yeah, so he's a big kid, man. And he's got some crazy, crazy high school tape. Gavin Sawchuk is non-committed. He's the second 5-star in the class. Then the last 5 stars, Raleek Brown, who is currently committed to Oklahoma. So there's a couple down the pipeline. As I said, I get all my information 24/7. Rivals is good too. I don't know, whatever you guys use, but I like 24/7. I like the way their site feels, and it just seems like their ratings more consistently. So those are some guys way down the line. I mean, if you're in silly, crazy leagues that do that, like I've got a couple that we do, we can take high school players, and I actually have a 14-year-old quarterback in one of them. I have a problem. So
well, I listen. I don't have a son yet, but if you want to draft my son when he's eventually born, he's probably gonna be at least a decent lineman.
All right. So I don't know if you guys got anything to add on these running backs, any names you can just think of that we didn't talk about. I mean, I felt like you probably threw out 600 names there, but I did. If you guys don't have anything else, I wanted to go over DLF's combined running back class rankings. Is that all right? Or
let's do it.
Hit it.
All right. So I went to DLF and I went to their. I just siphoned. I filtered out just the running backs for the Devy rankings, and they have ETN 1, Hubbard 2, Harris 3, Breece Hall 4, Journey Brown 5, Bijan Robinson is consensus 6, Zamir White consensus 7. There you go, Pete. Isaiah Spiller 9, Gainwell 10, Zach Charbonnet, or Gainwell's 9, Charbonnet is 10.
I'm not a Charbonnet guy.
I'm kind of mixed. He's got the talent, but he at times at Michigan he looked like just a plotter.
Dude, I mean, the only reason that anyone's talking about him is that for whatever reason Harbaugh handed off to him 50 times a game. It's ridiculous. The guy has a ton of volume, so he's only going to get on people's radars as a result. I watch Michigan every game. I tell you what, I don't see it, man.
I don't either, man. He could make a turn for the best because that offense often was defenses were able to key on him and key on stopping the run because their passing was so bad. So I'm hoping their offense opens up and we can see what he's really made of. So they have Max, DLF has Max Borghi at 12, Keontae Ingram at 14. We talked a lot about
disrespect. Him. They have Chardonnay over Max Borghi.
That's the name, man. Michigan, the winged helmet, baby.
It is. It's fading wazoo.
Yeah. They have Eric Gray at 19. I'm trying to go down this list here and see if there's
Eric Gray's at 19. That's okay. All right. At least I have an eye for somewhat of talent.
Spencer, they do have Spencer Brown at 36. That's a name to watch next year as well. He's a 2021 guy. Another small school, Alabama, Birmingham. So I like him quite a bit as well. Yeah. So you can check out their rankings. Yeah. So I just wanted to go through them and see what they said specifically about some of the guys we talked about. So kind of interesting. They have Kylan Hill at 11, which I am not a Kylan Hill guy. Verdell, they have at 13, which I thought was kind of surprising because a lot of people don't like him either, but he's a lot of fun to watch. That's for sure. I remember watching
Oregon offense. Yeah.
Yeah. Just watching Oregon games. I'm like, wow. Ooh, Verdell again, like they wouldn't do anything. And then the Verdell was gone, he's just lightning quick. So probably more of a third down guy, but yeah. So I don't know.
I'll toss you one incoming Devy guy's name. University of Washington, of course. I gotta represent. But if you remember Sam Adams, the defensive tackle, big Sam Adams.
The beer?
So Sam Adams the second, his son, is coming out, and he's a running back, pretty well regarded. And you're talking about lineage, guy who's going to know how to train. Know what's going to be expected going into the pros and just have kind of a good work ethic as far as that.
Right. I like it. Nice. All right, David.
I just want to go, since we're talking about UW, it seems like the sexy name is Jermichael Hasty when it comes to the SF UDF A's in that backfield. I drafted him myself in the Scott Fish Bowl, but at the same time, you know who they have? Salvin Ahmed, who I like. He is a bursty running back from the University of Washington, not a producer, but has athletic traits that, you could argue could make him a valuable asset down the line, especially in DFS, maybe in deeper dynasty leagues. Pete, what do you think about Salvin Ahmed?
So I've actually kind of known Savant since high school when he was a high schooler. I'm quite a bit older, obviously, but so Savant went to Juanita High School, which is right around where I work and right around where I live. Possibly one of the best young gentlemen I've ever met. When you talk about character stuff, this is high school kid. Anytime they would have an assembly, Savant would be one of the last people there, thanking whoever came to speak. I'm a huge fan of his. His speed unfortunately didn't show this year. He was dealing with a back injury that kind of went unreported. There's a little bit of information about it, and if you watch in his 40 at the NFL Combine, when he's getting into a sprint, his back seized up on him again, and you can see him. He goes vertical, very quick, running straight up and down, and which it tanked his draft stock. He was previously reported running, I think, around the 4.3s at the UW Pro Day in 2019.
Yeah, he was.
Right. And yeah, this injury had a huge part in his production this last year. And I think it was kind of one of the things that pushed him towards declaring. Unfortunately, when undrafted, he was brought in as a UDFA. And now he's at one of the best systems, really. We're always looking for that. We want the running back that's in the, Shanahan offense. And down there in San Francisco, hey, I'm all for it.
I agree. I mean, I do kind of listen, I'm a big, I know that people don't want to respect the Senior Bowl in terms of it's long history of time and look at it historically. It's not produced a lot of great talent. I think the opposite. I think that the Senior Bowl has actually been, in the last 5 years since Jim Nagy has taken over it, a really great like place to evaluate talent, and it actually has produced people. Look at DJ Chark, number one. The guy blew up in the Senior Bowl, and now he's at the top of many forward-thinking analyst lists in terms of wide receiver breakouts for this year, and he broke out last year. Hasty looked really good in the Senior Bowl. Josh Kelly looked really good in the Senior Bowl. So those are two guys that I think are names to keep in mind as we go forward. But speaking from a Devy perspective, Ahmed was a guy that I liked a lot. And while I might give that slight edge to Hasty because I saw him do it against other seniors and in that format, Ahmed could break out, man. I like him a lot. He's a great talent. And I agree with you that he did not get, I think a lot of people don't understand the speed that he contains because of his combine numbers. But then again, too, Gaskin was a great prospect out of Washington. He's like barely hanging on to the roster in Miami. They like brought in 2 other running backs from other places in front of him. So it's hard to gauge, but I do think if you're in a lot of leagues, if you're doing deep leagues, if you're listening to this podcast, you're doing a lot of stuff. I don't think Ahmed is a bad player to add. Maybe you do instead of Hasty this round, you do Ahmed because I feel like he's kind of getting like a little bit lost in this. As we approach the season.
So when you're talking. I don't know if you've seen it. It was one of the workouts, some sort of combine event, whatever it was. Savon was doing pass catching drills at like a invitation camp, some sort of Gatorade, whatever. Savon won. He showed up in the pass catching drills. He has great hands.
Yeah,
and that's key for a running back. His ability to stay on the field. He's a good blocker. He's a hardworking guy. I'm as a Seahawks fan, I don't like that he went to the 49ers, but I'm still going to cheer him on. So
100%.
Right. All right, David, you got a new podcast coming out. You're free to promote it if you like, man.
Well, I'm doing my training camp dialed in podcast again. So hopefully, that's if people will talk to me, but I plan on returning to the podcast mic, where I'll be talking to NFL beat writers about NFL training camp. The only difference this year is they won't be in from the sidelines of camp, but they'll know the team better than anyone, and we'll be getting the inside scoop on the team up to the minute. So we'll know what's going on, and I'm excited about that. I also am trying to do another podcast that I already recorded with Dwight that maybe will come to fruition. I'm having some thoughts about it. I appreciate Dwight for taking the time, but I don't know if I can support.
I hope somebody hears it. We had a blast.
No, it'll come out in some form. I don't know that. I basically want to do a half music, half fantasy football pod, but I don't know about that. But more importantly, this Wednesday, if it comes out, July 29th, if it comes out before the Wednesday,
we will.
July 29th. 9 p.m. No Limit Chronicles. Yeah, boy, right here. Had a hand in telling the story of Master P and the No Limit record label.
Oh,
it's going to be great. BET, 9 p.m. Wednesday.
All right.
July 29th. It's going to be great. He used to come to our office, and eat the snacks. So I have
for some reason that's the only
Master P. I love him. He's a great guy.
The only thing I remember is that song. They make him say, "Oh." That's the only one I remember. I don't know why I don't remember him better than that.
You don't remember Silk? You know what though? I gotta say, this is actually just we can talk about this off the air, but I got to watch a lot of MTV as a result because it's on BET and it's a Viacom production, so we were able to pull from the archives of MTV. I watched a lot of MTV and it was great. It was like I watched so much MTV Raps, like so much stuff from my youth. Where I literally I should be working, but I'm just like watching it. I'm just like watching full. I'm just like watching. I'm just like, what? You know what though? I have to say, I actually miss a lot of the programming that wasn't music from MTV, like back in the day. But at the same point, like Yo MTV Raps was maybe like one of the best shows of all time, and it stinks to lose that format and have it being a place where, you know, it's just everything's so fractured now, and it was like a more of a pit stop for more people, and it exposed a lot of artists, and it's an incredible show, from Fab Five Freddy to Ed Lover and Dr. Dre to was there a format after that? But yeah, it was a great show.
Yeah, show how weird I was. I loved that show, and I loved Headbangers Ball. Those are the two shows I always watched, because I loved rap and I loved heavy metal. So that's like what I listened to, like back in the late '90s and stuff. And 2000s. That's what I like.
The Headbangers Ball guy. I am blanking, but he is like.
I don't even remember, man. I always watch the videos. So, all right, Pete, you got anything you're working on, bud? Or
well, I brought back the old Dynasty Yak podcast, and I'm keeping them, just short, focused episodes, just kind of looking at one player at a time. So that's been fun to do again, and just been busy with life, and enjoying the Pacific Northwest, getting out and doing some hiking. Nice, man. Can't beat that.
All right. These two guys, they didn't say their handles, I don't think. David is at Carl Jr. Pete is at _Pete Law, right? I get that right. Yeah. All right. And you can find me on Twitter at FF People's Champ. Working at DLF. There's a lot of articles at DLF. I have too many going on right now. And I do have a little bit of an announcement for this show. Pete, I don't even know if I've even told you this, bud. I started a YouTube channel at Devy Manual, and I'm working on some prospect cut-ups for it. I've got one on it so far, and I'm working on like 6 other ones. So I'm not going to publicize it a whole lot. I've done some, and I'm going to set them to old school rap. I don't want it to get out there too much because I don't want to violate copyrights and all that. But so it's just going to kind of be for me. I love making cut-ups, and for you guys, if you guys want to check it out, at Devy Manual is how you find us on Twitter. The Devy Manual is the channel. I'll probably post it on the Twitter page here soon. I'm trying to get a couple more videos on it before I push it out too hard. But so I've been working on that, and I don't know. It's just I love making the prospect cut ups, so I wanted a place to put them. So I made a YouTube channel for the Devy Manual. So that's just. And if you don't ever put anything on there, Pete, sorry, I'll cut that out. I don't know why I didn't even mention it to you. I just been like, I was even considering making.
I think it's great, dude. I watched some of it, and you know what? Like, honestly, like, it's so rare that a announcer says something of use. Although I did hear when I was watching the Eric Gray highlights, the guy was like, he had 138 touchdowns in college or in high school. I was like, oh shit, that was pretty good. But for the most part, rip all that like commentary out and just play some tunes. That's cool.
Just for fun, man. Just for me. So, all right, and that is our show for tonight. We will talk to you guys in a couple of weeks. He just laughed. He was like stage left.